This video is going to function as a somewhat complete review for Season 2. I've finished the second part of the season, but it's difficult to talk about just one half of the season when it makes more sense to talk about it as a whole. Let me start out by saying that there has been a lot of discussion online recently about the quantity and quality of comic book media. One particular topic that comes up over and over again is that Hollywood has embraced comic characters, but not the source material or writers of comic books. Hollywood has absolutely no problem borrowing characters, stories, events, names, or titles of comic books, but oftentimes they are told to completely disregard the source material and essentially write around it or rewrite it completely. Comic writers are sometimes credited for the characters that they create in the stories, but are not fully consulted on the transition from one medium to another. It's my personal feeling that despite the fact that Hollywood is fine making money off the backs of these characters and the writers' stories who make them popular, there's still a general superiority complex within the media that comic book writers are somehow lesser. That being said, let me tell you that Invincible is a show that embraces the creators of comics, faithfully retells the stories from those comics, and does not give a flying fuck if you don't like it. Invincible is for fans, by fans, and every single episode of this show resonates that fact. And for that reason, and that reason alone, this show will continue to grow in popularity. Invincible is not a show that was made with the end goal of putting Mark Grayson on a fruit roll-up box. It wasn't made with the goal of having Adam Eve plushies in the checkout line at Walmart. Invincible is a violent, emotional onslaught of a story that has a healthy mix of holy shit with this could literally be me. For those of you who have followed along with our video series, we hope that we have inspired you to read the comics that we love so much. If you understand the story and what the events are and why they're crucial, all the major hits are there. I'm not going to talk about them because I want you to witness them for yourself. I don't want to spoil this season for you, but there are some truly powerful moments in this season. Almost every major character gets a significant amount of personal development within the show, and none of it feels forced or rushed. This show can actually make you tear up just as easily for Mark Grayson, the main character, as it can for, like, Donald Ferguson, the middle-aged right-hand man of Cecil Stedman. So what I'm really trying to say is that the writers of this show understand these characters, they understand the source material, and while some changes to the story have been made, they are minor and feel as if they should have been there all along. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, the bedrock of the show is action, but the true unsung hero of this specific season is how Mark processes the relationships in his life, the classic Spider-Man-esque setup. Mark's relationship with his father is obviously stressed following the events of Season 1, and in the mid-season finale, other stuff happens. Mark struggles with balancing his life as Earth's current strongest hero, being in college, having a girlfriend, being a dutiful son, having friends, supporting his super colleagues, and having a new brother, Oliver. By the end of the season, you see a young man kind of barely holding on, and you really feel for the character. It's the classic with great power comes something or other, I don't remember the line. If you asked me what I was looking forward to most this season, I would have told you the action, which we will discuss in a minute, but the true highlight of this show for me is the emotional resonance of the character, specifically Mark's relationship with his mother and his fleeting relationship with his girlfriend Amber. Side note real quick, I want to talk about Amber's performance. What the writers have done with this character is amazing, and I really get agitated when people complain about her online because they took one of the most boring throwaway stepping stone romantic partners in comic book history from the comics and truly fleshed her out into a character that I actually enjoyed. Zazie Beetz does a phenomenal job as Amber, and despite the fact that we all know who Mark's true love is, Amber was made infinitely better in this season in this show than she ever was written in the comics. Steven Yeun gives a phenomenal performance this season as Mark Grayson with some truly heartfelt moments between Mark, his mother Debbie, played by Sandra Oh, and the aforementioned Amber, played by Zazie. Gillian Jacobs as Adam Eve remains a personal favorite, and we get a ton of great scenes out of Zachary Quinto's Robot and Jason Mantzoukas' Rexplode. Sorry if I pronounced any of their names wrong. Rex, man. Rex is crazy. He's one of those characters that just gets better every time you see them, and Jason is truly cooking in this role. J.K. Simmons is back as Nolan with minimal screen time, but very imposing and even a bit vulnerable this part of the season. Make sure to stay after the credits roll on the final episode for a fan favorite moment from Omni-Man. I feel like the future will be very Omni-Man heavy, and J.K. is such an awesome voice actor. He's doing a great job. And everybody else in the show was fine, but nothing as noteworthy as the others. I promised a second ago that I would talk about action, and this season has a ton of it. From the very first episode to the finale, this season is packed with some truly brutal fights. The comic books are well known for how brutal they are, and it's good to see that the director and the animation team truly leaned into that. But then again, after the battle between Omni-Man and Mark in Season 1, I didn't think that we were going to have to worry about that at all. There are multiple fights in the second half of the first season that are ruthless, and they compare to the finale of Season 1 in terms of gore and quality. Specifically, the final fight between... Gotcha, you're going to have to wait and see who that is. But these fights aren't overdone. Like I said before, even the most brutal elements of the show are captured with a significant emotional toll on the characters engaged in battle. Rarely does a big fight occur and then afterwards everybody just carries on like nothing happened. These fights have ramifications, and you see those ramifications amplified in the performances of the actors. Most of you who have seen our videos should know which fights to expect based off the trailer, and I don't want to spoil which fights you do and don't see. As for the animation, it's very good. Not incredible like Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer, but really good. Personally, for me, I would have went with a slightly different style overall for the animated series. I'm kind of over this more blocky looking, sharp animation style that seems almost reminiscent of the last decade of Warner Brothers animated DC films, but that's just my own personal taste. But with that being said, there's a pretty funny bit in the 7th episode, I think it's the 7th, where the show pokes fun at how long and expensive animation is, as well as some tricks of the trade that animation uses. It was good to see the animation team get some recognition within the show from the writers, especially considering how many smooth brains on Twitter complain about how long there was between Season 1 and Season 2, and Season 2 Part 1 and 2. The final cap on the show is the music and score. This show just bats 100 on the soundtrack, and it always has. From Run the Jewels to Radiohead, there is an almost eclectic mix of music in the show that intently highlights the show's ever-changing pace and emotional beat. The deep moments have great original scores, and the montages set to artist music hit every single time. Try to think about how the soundtrack amplifies the emotions present during some of these big story beats and combos, and I promise you'll appreciate it just a little bit more. Ultimately, Season 2 of Invincible cements itself among the best and most faithful adaptations of comic book stories ever. It's my opinion that Robert Kirkman's Invincible is in great hands, and we here at Key Issues look forward to a bright future for this fandom. Thank you guys for checking out this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was informative and it gets you hyped for the second half of the season. This has been Nick with Key Issues. Remember to like and subscribe and do all that other crap that YouTubers ask you to do. And remember the motto, Invincible over everything.